What up, YouTube? I'm back. I wanted to do something else. I'm gonna save that last video for another time. I want to do something else. So y'all already know who it is. I know it's dark. I just don't feel like turning the light on. It's about what 6:04 a.m. But I'm back again, and I just wanted to read "Rest in Power: The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin" by Sabrina Fulton and Tracy Martin. Y'all probably can't see what the book looked like. Anyhow, so this is part 11 continued. Maybe I might need to have to turn the light on because I can't see. I don't have no lamp or nothing in here. I had one, but I believe they were taken downstairs, or I don't know. Shit happens. This is what the book looks like. Rest in Power: The Enduring Life of Trayvon Martin, Sabrina Fulton, Tracy Murray. And this is part 11. Continue. Y'all have to go back so y'all could catch up to where I'm at. The Central Florida defense attorney and former prosecutor had nearly 30 years of experience under his belt, representing clients in criminal cases ranging from drunk driving to the death penalty. He also has clock time in front of the television cameras, serving as a legal analyst for local station WKMG Channel 6, where he commented on high-profile cases, including the Casey Anthony case and even the Martin one, before he was hired to represent Zimmerman. Don West Appel ball a long time Orlando defense attorney had come to visit to start private law practice in the 1980s. Before he joined the Zimmerman team, West had already handled some of the most high-profile criminal cases in the Orlando area. In the past 20 years, reported the Orlando Sentinel. Sentinel. Uh, in 1988, he served as a co-counsel and helped Joseph Crazy Joe Spezzano get off death row. Spezzano, Spaziano, or Spezzano, however you pronounce it, Spaz. Anyway, is a former motorcycle gang member who was convicted of raping and murdering an Orlando teenager whose body was found in an Altamonte Springs dump. West also represented Orlando music mogul Lou Pearlman on bank, mail, and wire fraud charges. Orlando attorneys would reap national exposure from the case. Compared to the defense, our team was low-key but solid, overseen by Angela Corey. The prosecutors were Bernardo Bernie de la Rianda, John Guy, and Richard Manti. Bernie was born in Cuba, but came to the United States at 4 years old when his parents had put him on a cargo plane to escape the Castro regime. Raised by his grandparents in Miami, he never saw his parents again, according to the Orlando Sentinel. As the lead prosecutor, he had a reputation for being tough on crime, sometimes emotional in his court presentations, and aiming for the most severe punishments. His county accounted for, hold on, quarter of the death sentences in the state, even though by population it was only 5% of the state, according to media reports. Assistant State Attorney John Guy had tried what the media estimated at 100 cases since becoming a prosecutor. In 1993, Richard Manti had also prosecuted a number of high-profile murder cases. O'Mara assured or Judge Jessica Seidler, as well as the media, that his client would plead not guilty, a move we more than expected. And although O'Mara stressed he would attempt to get his client out of jail as soon as possible, we knew he would remain behind bars at least until the bond hearing. That's a damn shame. 2 days before the scheduled bond hearing, Judge Seidler, please excuse me if I'm pronouncing this wrong. Y'all can look up the Trayvon Martin case, watch videos, and y'all know a lot more. If I'm pronouncing anything wrong in any of these videos of me reading this book, announced she was removing herself from the case due to an apparent conflict of interest, a move requested by O'Mara. Rex Seidler's husband, Jason Rex Seidler, was the partner at the farm of Mark Majame, who had recommended O'Mara to the killer and his family. Judge Kenneth Lester Jr. was immediately tapped as her replacement. A good development, our attorney Natalie Jackson told us. He's one of the smartest judges on the bench, but also one who makes up his own mind. She told us, you know, Judge Lester is going to read the file and know all of the information in that file. She gave us a quick rundown on his background. He was a 15-year veteran of the court. He served in combat in Vietnam. He went by the book. He addressed lawyers formally using their full names. Okay. I'm sorry. I forgot to say the dates. So that was April 18th is when I said 2 days before the schedule. That was April 18th. Talk about Judge Rex Seidler. I apologize, y'all. April 20th, the first time we came face to face with the man who killed our son was at his April 20th bond hearing in the Seminole County Courthouse in Sanford, Florida. It was about 9 in the morning. Sabrina, our attorney, Gerardus, and I stood in a little side room in the court's hallway and we prayed. We did this before every major event. We asked for strength, composure, and guidance so that we could keep ourselves together. But the prayer was also an affirmation that no matter what we did, our faith was in God, ultimate authority to render justice no matter what happened in his court that day. In the court that day. Kiko Tracy Trump said, I'm not mean to say Trump. Crump said as we took our seats in the courtroom. He could tell I was on edge. He told me because he noticed my legs were bouncing up and down even when I was sitting still. My whole body seemed to be shaking. Hearing was to determine if Judge Lester would allow the defendant to be released on bond. The only people in the court were the defense lawyers, the prosecutors, and us. And of course, the defense and the killer's family did not attend. They would testify by phone due to alleged stress on their life and safety. The killer entered the courtroom with from the left wing, escorted by two police officers. He wore a dark suit and a gray tie with restraints around his wrists that were chained to his waist instead of the traditional handcuffs that would have bound his hands together. And there were no cuffs on his ankles. So he was able to walk into court like a regular citizen, which Crump later told me would have been unusual had a jury been present. The shock appeared to have worn off since his first court appearance. He was clean shaven. He took a seat at the defense table next to Mark O'Mara, where he sat quietly with a neutral expression, aware but not engaged, and inside outrage. The man who killed my son is now standing only 20 feet away from me. Sabrina sat beside me, and Crump was nearby at the end of the bench in the first row. There was a wooden divider between my son's killer and me, designed to block people in the audience from the council tables, and the man who killed my son was sitting right there. Before he was called to take the stand in, I sat there looking at him as he stared blankly ahead, and once again I could feel my body starting to shake. Keep your cool, keep your composure, Crump whispered. Tracy, please make sure that we don't do anything inappropriate here. Shit. Crump always reminds Sabrina and me to keep our emotions under control no matter what happened because we would be judged as much as, if not more than, the man who had been arrested and was about to stand trial. We were parents of the victim, but we were black parents of a black teenager. Whatever sympathy the general public had for us would vanish if we ever truly showed all the anger and frustration we felt. But I felt tested like never before in the presence of the killer. My neck tingled, my hands shook. All I could think of was destroying the man who took my son's life. God's in control, and we don't need to help God, Crump whispered in my ear. God's going to make sure that this wrong is made right. We don't have to do anything more at this point. But I wanted more. I wanted revenge. All these thoughts bubbled up inside me. I tried my best to keep them at bay. I looked over at Sabrina, who was beside me. She seemed calm, just rocking back and forth quietly. She held her Bible, silently praying. Judge Lester began speaking. Good morning, he said. Let's call case number 2012 1083, State of Florida versus George Zimmerman. Also 2012 to 10,000 or 1,000, is it 1,083? I don't know. Anywho, attorney Marco O'Mara was allowed to speak first. He handed over his client's passport to the court and then called his first character witness, the defendant's wife, Shelley. Testifying by phone, Shelley Zimmerman's voice could be heard on the court's loudspeakers as she was sworn in. After receiving her promise that she'd do everything in her power to guarantee that her husband made his court appearances, O'Mara began asking Shelley questions about her family's financial status in order to determine the bond amount. Are you working presently? Omera asked. No, I'm not, Shelley said. What do you do with your time? I'm a nurse and student. Is that full time individual or presently? Yes, it is. So you're not earning any income presently, correct? Omara continued asking questions. Did they own their home? No, sir. Did they have assets that could be sold to pay for a bond? None that I know of, she said. Are you of any financial means where you could assist in those calls? Not that I'm aware of. Shelley Zimmerman again confirmed that she and her husband's family would take on the responsibility to sca- scrape up anything that we possible can to meet the conditions of his bond. She also discussed the family's fear that some harm might come to her or her husband. Should information about where he would be released be made public. She maintained that George Zimmerman was not a danger to the community. I held my raging thoughts in my head, but I felt like destruction. When Bernie Dina uh, Rhonda, I guess whatever his name is, began his cross examination of the defendant's wife. I mean, uh, then Bernie De La Rionda began his cross examination of the defendant's wife. You said that you don't believe your husband is a danger to the community. Is that correct? De La Rionda asked. That's correct, Shelley replied. Are you aware of what he's been charged with? That is second degree murder, correct? Yes, I'm aware of that. Is I mean, it is a crime of violence. Would you not agree? I agree. And man, would you not agree that your husband had a violent history? No, I don't agree with that. So, are you not aware when he got arrested for violent crime in Orange County? I'm aware of that situation. And did that not involve him striking or in some way battering a law enforcement officer? No. Did you talk to him about it? Yes, I have. Did he tell you that he was arrested and charged with various crimes, battery to a law enforcement officer, and obstruction of justice? Yes, he has informed me of those charges. Did you read the arrest document on that charge, ma'am? No. The Rhonda then submitted the arrest document on the court, to the court, into a mirror and read the pertinent parts to Shelley. I identify myself as a state police officer and show Zimmerman my badge and ask him to leave the area. Dina Rihanna read. He stated, I don't care who you are. I again asked Zimmerman to leave. He stated the F word and said you at the time. Well, he said fuck you. At the time, I attempted to escort Zimmerman from the interview room, and he shrugged away from me and pushed my arms away with his hands. After a short struggle, he was placed in handcuffs and detained. Shelley said she had discussed the incident with her husband, but continued to deny it proved a history of violence. Dina Rihanna then asked about the injunction filed against the killer by another woman, reading from the injunction. He picked me up and threw me on the bed. I got up to leave and he grabbed me again. You weren't aware of that incident, Dina Rihanna asked. I am aware that he had to protect himself from being attacked from her, Shelley asked, and there was blood drawn from him from her, and he also filed an injunction against her. Once again, please excuse me if I'm pronouncing any last names wrong. Dina Rihanna as now. So, despite those two incidents, the prior arrest involved the law enforcement officer in the incident involving the injunction. You still assess or determine or tell the court that he is not a violent person or a threat to the community. Absolutely, he is not a violent person nor a threat to the community, says Shelley Zimmerman, the same man who she would later claim during the 911 call on September 9, 2013, it costed her father. After O'Mara questioned Shelley Zimmerman, the next witness was called the killer's father, Robert. He also testified by phone, answering the same questions about assuring that his son would show up in court and stated that he would take out the second mortgage on his home if the court required it for his son's release. Do you believe that your son's a violent person? O'Mara asked. Absolutely not, Robert answered. Can you expound on that? I have never known him to be violent at all unless he was provoked. And then he would turn the other cheek. We couldn't believe what we were hearing. This man who shot our son was the type to turn his cheek when provoked. Then around soon stood to cross examine and Robert Zimmerman. You mentioned your son was not a violent person. Is that correct? Rihanna asked. Absolutely, said Robert. In fact, if I wrote it correctly, you said that you never seen him be violent unless he's provoked. And even then, you say he turned the other cheek. Is that correct? That's correct. You're aware of what he's charged with in terms of murder, correct? And you are not a witness there to see what happened, correct? No, I was not. Are you aware of his prior arrests involving violence? Are you not? I'm aware of the incident involving alcohol beverage control officers in plain clothes. Did you discuss that matter of his prior arrest with your son? Yes, I did. And did he tell you in that particular case he turned the other cheek? Well, he did. A friend of his was grabbed and thrown up against the wall by some people in civilian clothes or civilian clothes. I meant to say. Rihanna had already established Robert's past as a magistrate before continuing with questions about the killer's prior arrest. They tell you that they asked him to leave and he told them, I don't care who you are. When the officer identified himself as a law enforcement officer, no. Did you ever read the actual arrest file? No, I did not. Were you not curious out of being a magistrate in terms of whether your son was telling you the truth or just curiosity sake or just for curiosity's sake? I never questioned whether my son was telling me the truth. Next to take the stand again by phone was the defendant's mother, Gladys. Did he discuss with you his arrest at the hands of alcohol, firearms, and tobacco officers? Omar asked. Yes, he did. That was a long time ago, Gladys answered. And she said the same thing as the others. George was punished. George was pushed and merely wanted to defend a friend. Hearing the killer's family members speak about him in positive ways was sickening and disturbing. My stomach churned. Again, I wanted to stand up and scream. And the only thing that kept me in my chair were Crunk's words, you will be judged as much as, if not more than, George Zimmerman. Bernie D. Rihanna cross-examined Gladys Zimmerman briefly before dismissing her. O'Mara called his next witness, Dale Gilbreth, the lead investigator with the state attorney's office with 35 years experience. He signed a probable cause affidavit with Crow investigator T.C. Osteen, who said Trayvon was profiled by George Zimmerman, who assumes Martin was a criminal. Disregarding the dispatcher's request not to pursue Trayvon, the shooter who said, these assholes, they always get away, and also said, these fucking punks, confronted Martin with a struggle ensued, read the affidavit. Witnesses heard people arguing in what sounded like a struggle. The affidavit continued. During this time period, witnesses heard numerous calls for help, and some of these were recorded in 911 calls to police. Trayvon Martin's mother has reviewed the 911 calls and identified the voice crying for help as Trayvon Martin's voice. If I say to you the word peanut butter, what do you think? O'Mara asked Gail Gilbreth on the witness stand. Jelly. Okay, Mo, Larry, and Curly. When I say the word profile, what do you think? I believe you're applying predetermined thought pattern to a set of circumstances. No. Uh, Other word comes in mind when I say profile to you. I gave you my answer, sir. For some reason, it seemed O'Mara wanted to get the investigator to introduce the idea of racial profiling. I didn't understand why. O'Mara continued to pull apart the affidavit down to its smallest details. Then around the cross-examining Gilbreth, recounting many of the events the night Trayvon was killed before also parsing through the affidavit. Why did you use the word confronted, sir? Dina Rihanna asked Gilbreth. Because Zimmerman met with Martin and it was compiling the facts that we had along with the witness statements of the argumentative voices and the authoritative voice being given from one of the witnesses, and then the struggle that ensued that came from several witnesses. Dina Rihanna then still rested, but O'Mara had one counterattack. So, do you know who started the fight? He asked. Do I know? Right, no. Do you have any evidence that supports who may have started the fight? No. Mrs. Zimmerman gave a statement that very night. Did he not? Yes. And within the statement, he said he saw he saw somebody. He was concerned. He got out of his car. He called non-emergency and began to go towards the person. Is that paraphrasing, but pretty correct so far? Paraphrasing, yes. O'Mara continued to question Gilbert, getting him to admit that although he had no evidence as to who started the fight, and while he had never spoken to George Zimmerman himself, Zimmerman did claim that he was the victim and that it was Trayvon who had confronted him and assaulted him. In an initial interview con- conducted by the Sanford Police Department within an hour and a half of my son's death, do you have any evidence to contradict or that conflicts with his contention given before he knew any other evidence that would conflict with the fact that he said, I walk back to my car? No. Any evidence that conflicts with any eyewitnesses, anything that conflicts with the contention that Mrs. Emmons saw first, their contention that was given to us by him other than filling in the figures, being one follow or chasing the other one as to who threw the first blow? No. Now you know, as one of the chief investigators, that this is primarily focused in the case, is it not? There are many focuses in the case. He said nothing further. The confrontational back and forth took me by surprise. Dina Rihanna then stood. Mr. Gilbert, I didn't know we were going to be trying the case. He said, I apologize. I want to add some questions. You had reviewed, or other members of the team had reviewed the defendant's interviews. Is that not true? That is, Gilbert said. And isn't it true that a lot of statements that he made do not make sense in terms of the injuries that he described? Did he not describe to the police that Mr. Martin had him on the ground and kept bashing his head on the concrete over and over, or just physically beating him with his hands? He has said that, yes. And isn't it true that there is evidence that indicates that's not true? Yes. Did he not state or claim that the victim in this case, Mr. Martin, put both hands, one over his mouth and the other on his nose, so that he couldn't breathe? Yes. And all of a sudden, that's when he was able to get free and grab the gun. Or, I'm sorry, Martin was grabbing for the gun. Did he not claim that too at some point? Yes. But, and I'm not going to get into any little contradiction, but wouldn't you agree that a lot of his statements can be contradicted by the evidence, either witness or just based on what he says himself? Yes. Oh, they are getting in their ass. Hold on. Don't like. Diana Rihanna had no further questions. After a few more questions from O'Mara, Gilbert was dismissed, and O'Mara stood to address Judge Lester. My client wants to make a statement to the court, Your Honor, he said. The defendant was going to take the stand. Another surprise. I braced myself. The killer approached the bench to be sworn in. Because he was in shackles, he was only able to raise his right hand halfway as he took the oath. He then sat down at the witness stand. He seemed to be looking somewhere into the distance, but he addressed Sabrina and me, although not by name. I wanted to say I'm sorry for the loss of your son, he said. I did not know how old he was. I thought he was a little bit younger than I am, and I did not know if he was armed or not. He's admitting his guilt. Oh, I was speechless. So was Sabrina. She just shook her head and refused to look at the defendant. O'Mara had no more questions, but Dina Rianda was eager to cross-examine. Okay, so tell me, after you committed this crime and you spoke to police, did you ever make that statement to the police, sir, that you were sorry for what you done or their laws? Dina round the ass. No, sir, the killer responded. You never said that, did you? I don't remember what I said. I believe I did say that. You told that to the police? In one of my statements, I said that I felt sorry for the family. And you're sure you said that? I'm fairly certain. And so much, I mean, and so, which officer did you tell that to? You made five statements, I believe, total. Yes, sir, I'm sorry. All the names run together. And let me make sure the record's clear. You stated exactly what to those detectives. I don't remember exactly what verbatim, but you're saying you expressed concern for the loss of Mr. Martin, or that you had shot Mr. Martin, that you actually felt sorry for him. I felt sorry that they lost their child, yes. Why did you wait 50 something days to tell them? That is the parents. I don't understand the question, sir. Why did you wait so long to tell Mr. Martin and the victim's mother, the father and mother? Why did you wait so long to tell them? I was told not to communicate with them. Okay, so even though through your attorney you didn't ask to do it right away, your former attorney or anything. I did ask them to express that to them, and they said that they were going to. After some back and forth regarding the killer statements to the police, Dingla resigned as, would you agree you changed your story as it went along? Absolutely not. After a few more questions, the defendant was allowed to step down. It was now time for Judge Lester to either set bail or to keep him in jail for the duration of the trial without bail. O'Mara, of course, asked the judge to release the client on bail. Dingla Rihanna asked the judge to consider the charges the killer was facing: life in prison, a life felony, and that obviously makes it different. You also have the fact that it is an armed 17-year-old boy. Dingla Rihanna continued, an innocent young man whose life is no longer among us. He has violence in the past, and obviously he committed this crime, or he's charged with committing this crime. Our position is that he still will be in danger to the community, and based on the crime, he would be kept on no bond, or the bond should be $1 million. Quite frankly, what it boils down to, he shot somebody. Not only he shot, he killed someone. Judge Lester leaned forward and stroked his goatee as he considered the facts. He said he considered the defendant's prior resisting arrest charge, a run of the mill type run in with the alcohol and beverage agents. He felt the injunction against his ex girlfriend was mild compared to others he had seen. He set bond at 150,000 under certain conditions. Electronic GPS monitoring, as absence from alcohol, and possession of firearms, as well as a curfew. Oh wow! June 1st. The judge ruling on April 20th seemed final, but 6 weeks later, on June 1st, Judge Lester would revoke the original bond and order the killer to turn himself into the court after the prosecution discovered that Shelley had lied about their family's finances. It turned out that Shelley and her husband had access to 135,000 raised through a PayPal account on their website for his defense. Yes, Shelley had told the court under oath that she and her husband were indigent and without any available funds. This lie was discovered through phone conversations between George and Shelley Zimmerman while he was still in custody in the Seminole County Jail. This court was led to believe they didn't have a single penny. De La Rianda said in a motion to revoke the bond. This it was misleading. I don't know what other words to use other than it was a blatant lie. According to the prosecutors, the couple knew their conversations were being recorded and devised a code designed to cover up the exact amounts they had raised. Money raised on their website was then deposited to the killer's credit union account, then transferred to his wife's account on various other accounts. Transfers never exceeded 10,000, which would have required the bank to report the transaction to the IRS. Judge Lester's finding that George Zimmerman was dishonest is very important. Crump told reporters when the news broke his credibility is the most important thing in his entire case. The killer had also filed to hand over his passport instead, surrendering the passport he had reported as stolen 8 years earlier. The old passport that was given over to the court was set to expire shortly after the initial bond hearing, but the newer passport, which he had held onto, was valid until 2014. Judge Lester lashed out at the defendant and his attorney over the lies. Does your client get to sit there like a potted palm and let you lead me down the primrose path? He asked. That's the issue. He can sit back and obtain the benefit of a lower bond based upon those material falsehoods. Judge Lester was tough, and we felt lucky to have him presiding over the case, but that luck wouldn't last for long. On June 12th, Shelley was arrested on one count of perjury. As for her husband, on July 5, he was given a new bond, 1 million, in order to stay away from airports, among other conditions. After posting bail, the killer was once again released from jail, and we braced ourselves to see what would come next. We didn't have to wait for long. On July 13th, the killer's attorney filed a motion on the behalf to disqualify Judge Lester, writing that the court, meaning the judge, makes gratuitous, disparaging remarks about George Zimmerman's character, advocates for Mr. Zimmerman to be prosecuted for additional crimes, offers a personal opinion about the evidence for said prosecution, and continues to hold over Mr. Zimmerman's head the threat of future contempt proceedings. 6 weeks later, on August 29th, an appeals court granted the motion for a new judge, agreeing with O'Mara, the judge Lester had created reasonable fear in Mrs. Zimmerman that the court was biased against him. Now we had yet another judge proceeding over the case, this one being the third, Judge Deborah Nelson. Mm-mm-mm-mm. That's the end of that. Like, comment, subscribe. I'm gonna get back to y'all in the next one.